One of the things that is common when Pastor Joey and I travel is the experience of getting lost. For those who know me, they will know that when I say, go to your right, that means you're supposed to go to your left. And when I say, go to your left, that means you go to your right. And stubborn as I am, I would always insist that the direction that I am pointing at is right. But truth be told, lagi pong mali. And getting lost is always not a good experience, right? But aside from getting lost yourselves, another thing that we have experienced during our travel is that our things also get lost. Nasa ng susi? I gave it to you. No, you didn't. It's in your pocket. No, you did. No, it's not. And it's in your bag. No, it's not. I gave it to you. So oftentimes, aside from those things that we lose, there are also other things that we tend to lose. We lose our temper, diba? We are loose of words, which are all a little bit tragic after a while. But has any one of you lost anything of great value? Your wedding ring. Minsan, as you reach your senior moments, they become funny incidents already. You look for your glasses, which is on top of your head. You look for your phone, which is on your hand. Diba? The value of something that is lost is all the more made apparent if it is of greater value. The greater the value of that thing that is lost, diba? The more delighted you are when you find it. The greater the value of that thing that you've lost is, once you find it, ano yung feeling nun? Diba mas masaya? When you lose your wedding ring and you find it, bago mo pa masabi sa asawa mo na nawala siya, all the more you become delighted, right? I am sure if I got lost in Phuket, Pastor Joey would search high and low for me. Tama? Oh, he said, nagta-thumbs up siya doon sa gilid. You would search high and low and do everything just so you will find that thing. So, as we journey today, we are going to talk about two parables wherein God, Jesus, would show us and tell us what His reaction is once something that is lost is found. That if there is one thing that these stories will tell you, it is this: that nothing gives God more joy than when the lost is found. Nothing, absolutely nothing, will give God the most delight than when something that is lost is found. And do you know that this is the French word for the day? Zach, can you tell it? Can you say? Zach is studying French. Tell me if it's right. Raison d'être. Correct? Pinagtawanan ako. Siguro mali. Raison d'être, that means your reason, your purpose for being. This is the raison d'être of Jesus Christ Himself. When He said in Luke chapter 19, verse 10, "For the Son of Man has come to seek and save that which was lost." This is the purpose of Jesus' incarnation. Right from the very beginning, He already knew that the purpose for His coming was not to be king, was not to sit on a throne, it was not to rule over people, but this was the purpose that God has given Him. And that is to seek and save the lost. So allow me to substantiate this statement today by going through the parable of the lost sheep and the lost coin. So today's conversation is entitled "The Lost and found. And this conversation will ensue in Luke chapter 15, verses 1 to 10. So if you will turn your Bibles there, in that chapter, the lost and found will be a conversation of stories that we have already heard of. These are stories that we know. Even way back in Sunday school, if we were there, or in religion class, if we had, this is the story of the lost sheep and the lost coin. Tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. This was a time when people would already start to gather from all walks of life, the rich and the poor, the educated and the non-educated, those who were coming from near and far. They would just all gather every time they heard that Jesus would be speaking. And take note of this, his audience were particularly stipulated. Sino sila? Tax collectors and other notorious sinners. So it is being said that the tax collectors were notorious sinners. Tama? Kasi sabi niya, tax collector and other notorious sinners. That means the tax collectors had a special mention. Pagdating sa billing, pagdating sa ranking of the sinners, of the most notorious sinners, the tax collectors were special mention. Why? Because they were considered the worst of all notorious sinners. They were considered the scum of society because they were traitors to their own people. They were traitors to their own people. That's why the tax collectors were even considered worse than the murderers, the worst of thieves, those who would incite rebellion. They were all even of a lower rang compared to tax collectors. And these were the very people who would come and listen to Jesus. At sino pa? Aside from the tax collectors, high-ranking notorious sinners, there were also the Pharisees and the teachers of the religious law. Why were they there? The tax collectors and the sinners were there ready to listen in anticipation. Ano kaya ituturo nito? Because Jesus is, he was starting to be known as a person who was speaking, and his message made sense. It was something that was acceptable, and it was something that made sense to them. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the religious law, they were not there to listen intently to what Jesus said. Well, they were ready to listen intently with one purpose, and that was to catch Jesus and see whether Jesus was teaching something that was wrong. They were out to catch him as to something that he would state wrongly, and then they would be able to rebuke him and correct him. Because during those days, what were the Pharisees and the religious leaders doing? They were complaining. They were complaining that Jesus was associating himself with the sinful people. And he was not only associating with them. Siguro pag nag-associate, okay lang eh. Di ba, kinausap niya yung isang sinner, well, nakasalubong, so they'd start talking. But one thing the Pharisees could not accept was the fact that he was eating with them. Why? Because once you start dining with people, that means nag-level up na yung relationship ninyo. Because you wouldn't sit down and eat comfortably with someone that you don't really know. There is now starting to be a relationship with the sinners and Jesus. And that was not good for them. Because during that time, there were only two factions of people. The righteous and the unrighteous. So sino yung righteous? What the Pharisees were teaching, what the Pharisees were telling, is sila yung righteous, naturally. And the unrighteous were the sinners and those that they were not associating with. The righteous should be not looking at them in their eyes. The unrighteous should be just looking on the floor and walking about. As a matter of fact, oftentimes they should veer away when they see the righteous people walking towards them. Social scientists say that the reason why the Philippines is not thriving or succeeding is because we're very regionalistic. Ang Ilocano dapat ang kasama Ilocano. Ang Bicolano dapat Bicolano. Ang Cebuano dapat Cebuano. Ang Kapampangan dapat Kapampangan. We do not think as a nation. Ang Filipinos daw po, we think as a region. Kaya when we go out of the country, we look for the samahan ng mga Ilocano, asosasyon ng mga Cebuano. Diba? Yung mga GI, genuine Ilocano daw yun. Yung iba, mixed breed. So that's what we do, even now. Ay, ang dapat barkada ko, taga-win lang, kasi yun yung mga mababait na tao. Totoo naman yun. Diba? So what was happening? Every time Jesus had a full gathering, the Pharisees and the teachers of the law would be complaining. Other versions would say they were growling. They were not complaining lang, di ba, growl na yung kanilang complaint. Hindi na lang sila, ay naku, ayan na naman si Jesus. Look at him, he's always with the sinners, he's always with the tax collectors. It was not only like that anymore. They were starting to growl and be violent about it. So when Jesus was there, imagine with me, a full audience, tax collectors, other notorious sinners, and on one side, the Pharisees and the religious leaders. He had a full audience all across the board. And then, Jesus starts teaching a parable of the lost sheep. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? What will you do? Sayang lang yung oras ko, alagaan ko na lang yung 99. Don't we have that mentality? Right? Why go? Because sheep, they're not very wise. I don't like to use the opposite word, but that's what you're supposed to say. Sheep, they're not very wise. They see a butterfly flying around, they would go. They see a greener pasture there, they would go. They would just always go astray. And the Pharisees and the sinners at this time, Jesus got their attention because everybody knew a shepherd, everybody knew what a sheep was, everybody knew how it was to be taking care of sheep. And he continues, wouldn't he leave 99 others in the wilderness and go search for one that is lost until he finds it? When I was reading this again, I was saying, no. Diba? I won't go out of my way to find that one because, mind you, the 99, as written by Luke, were also going to be left in the wilderness, out in the open, being game for the foxes and the thieves, for them to be taken away. And I am sure that if he was out to get that one sheep, siguro naman ibinili niya yung 99. Or maybe he knew in his heart of hearts that these 99 sheep were safe wherever they may be. And the shepherd goes out. Because the shepherd, they know that sheep, they won't come back on their own. They won't go and find where their flock is. Sometimes they will wander so far away that they wouldn't even notice that they're lost. Hindi nila alam na nawawala na sila. They will just go happily jumping around. Kaya nga, remember when we were young, when you couldn't sleep, my mom would always tell me, count sheep, anak. And in the picture of that sheep, it would be jumping over the fence. 1 sheep, ba. 2 sheep, ba. Ganun lang siya, di ba? It's so meek and sweet and nice. And that meekness and that innocence, it just drives him away without even knowing. And the shepherd knew that if he wouldn't go out and pursue and look for this sheep is good as dead. He won't be able to go back to the flock. He won't be able to go back to where his sheep was before he went astray. And this shepherd would be so caring and loving and search for that one sheep. And until when? He will not go back until he finds it. He will go through forests and thickets. He would go to rivers and ravines and valleys just to be able to search for that one sheep. But you know, everybody in Jesus' audience, they understood what Jesus was talking about. So everybody was in agreement. So you can see them all nodding their heads. Yes, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go out and find that sheep. Why? Because during that time, the measure of your wealth is by your livestock. And pretty much that is what is being shown here. That even if there's just one sheep that is lost among the 100, the shepherd would really go out of its way to find that one sheep. And everybody was agreeing. And when that is found, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. Joyfully. I remember there was one time my nephew and their family, my sister and their family went to Davao. My nephew got lost. And when he got lost, syempre, no, the father and the mother, nasa si Nat? Where's Nat? Huh? Kasama mo? Hindi, kasama mo. They thought one was holding him. So when they couldn't find him, they searched the whole plaza. When they couldn't find him, they went and searched for a policeman. And when they searched for a policeman, meron sila doon parang information booth. In short, parang lost and found. And then, when they saw my nephew ran to them, and my nephew said, "Where were you? You were lost." Diba? Yung magulang ang nawawala, hindi siya. So what do you think my sister did? Instead of scolding him, diba? When your child is lost, that's the worst feeling there is. That is the worst feeling when your child is lost. Sa halip na gusto daw niyang kurut-kurutin, diba? Saan ka nagpuntukan mo, paluin mo, diba? Because of the tension that you feel, that simply would just be able to really rattle you off. So after that, instead of doing that, my sister hugged him. And siya yung umiiyak, hindi yung pamangkin ko. So my sister was crying and hugging him and loving him. And this is what the shepherd would be doing. When he found his sheep, he would joyfully carry it instead of papaluin niya siguro, nawala ka na naman. Kasi the sheep daw who would normally get lost is the same sheep who would always get lost. Yeah. Pasaway, in short. And when he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors saying, "Rejoice with me." Because indeed, if you lose something of great value and you find it, rejoice with me because I have found my lost sheep. Jesus was exemplifying that there is so much joy when you experience that, losing something and finding it. Much more, in the same way, captured audience, Jesus teaches of a heavenly teaching. And he says, in the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. Can you imagine the facial expression and the emotion of the Pharisees and the religious leaders? Huh? Over one sinner who repents, there's rejoicing in heaven. There's joy in heaven compared sa akin who has always been here, happy, serving. I can imagine the Pharisees, nodding their shaking their heads and saying, "How can that be? Why will there be rejoicing in heaven over one compared to the 99 others who have remained righteous and have never strayed away?" What Jesus was emphasizing here is the joy and the delight of someone who is lost and has been found. And the self-righteous Pharisees who have given them their title that they are holy and righteous are now raising hell and complaining and growling. How can that be? those people that I'm not even associating with, when they come and return to the fold, there will be rejoicing in heaven. Because to the Pharisees, what they were teaching was the exclusivity of heaven, the exclusivity of salvation. Tayo-tayo lang, kami-kami lang. But Jesus was teaching otherwise. That salvation, the heaven, was open to everyone. He continues on. Or suppose a woman who has 10 silver coins loses one. Won't she light a lamp and sweep under the entire house and search carefully until she finds it? No. Isa lang naman among 10. Diba? To us, that's what we're going to say. It's just one. But during that time, this silver coin is very precious. Ang sabi nila, this is a practice then, that 10 coins, or a number of coins, depending on how wealthy you are, is placed on some sort of a chain and worn by a married woman. So it's like a jewelry. It's a piece that has a sentimental value because normally it is given by your spouse. So it gives even more value to what rather than the real value of that piece of coin is. Aside from it being very precious, because during that time, money, coins, was not always available. It was not readily available in their pockets. What they would be trading, because they were self-sufficient, they would have food, they would have produce. So money was not a common thing. It was really a very precious thing to them. So imagine that if you're not very wealthy, one piece of that silver coin, when it's lost, aside from its sentimental value, would be of great value to you. Right? When I lost my wedding ring, when I thought I lost it because I washed my hands, I was so frantic that I couldn't find it, that I told myself, oh no, parang noon, ibig sabihin ba nito, maghihiwalay na kami ni Pastor Joey kasi nawala yung sing-sing ko? O may ganon, di ba? But then, this very precious piece of silver coin to the woman was so precious that he would go out of his way to just find it. So I can imagine, sweep on hand, he would be sweeping the whole house. And during that time, the houses were not well lit because they were made of mud, diba? Ano sila? Bato sila. There would be very little light that would be coming into the house. So they would need a lamp to light the house. And oil then was a very precious commodity. That was very expensive. That's why they only saved lighting their lamps at night. This was so precious that she needed to light a lamp, sweep the entire house. I can imagine her sweeping and saying and praying her wits out, nasa na ba yun, nasa na ba yun? Turning her house over just to be able to find that one coin. Until she finds it. Pretty much like the shepherd, she will not stop until she finds it. And when she finds it, she will call in her friends and neighbors and say, rejoice with me, because I have found my lost coin. And all her friends, sabi siguro, natawagan siguro niya, na-text niya, nawawala yung isang coin. Nawawala yung coin na bigay ni hubby. And then now she texts everybody and tells them, I have found my coin. And everybody rejoices. Everybody's happy. And Jesus turns that teaching once more. In the same way, there is joy in the presence of God's angels, even when one sinner repents. Sino po yung joyful? It's not the angels. It's in the presence of the angels because it's in heaven. That's what we commonly say. We say, the angels are rejoicing because of one sinner who has repented. No, it is God Himself who is rejoicing. It's in the presence of the angels, yes, but it is God Himself who is rejoicing with even one sinner repenting. Because there is nothing that gives God more joy nothing than when the lost is found. Because that is how precious we are with God. That just one, that is the whole story of the Bible. God pursues us. It is not like us, hindi po tayo parang mga doktor na nakaupo lang at nag-aantay ng taong dumating dito sa loob ng WIN-SQ. No. Inasmuch as God pursues and seeks the lost, we should be doing the same. Because God is in active pursuit of those who sins. He just doesn't sit down and wait for them to come, because He knows, pretty much like the sheep, they wouldn't know that there is a need for salvation. They wouldn't know that there is a need for them to have a relationship with God. I'm fine where I am. Sumusweldo ako in dollars. I have a house in the Philippines. I have 2 cars. I'm comfortable. I'll just wait for the time that I die. Because God's greatest pursuit is when He sent His Son Jesus into the world so we could receive life through Him. God is in constant pursuit of sinners. Look at the Bible. Ever since the time of Genesis, what did God do? He sought Adam and Eve. Adam, where are you? That was what He called Adam for when they were hiding. Right? Even Moses. He pursued Moses right from the time of his birth until the time when he met him in the burning bush, until he had a change of heart. God is in constant pursuit of all of us. Even with Paul, Jesus sought him on the road to Damascus, if you remember that story. It was Jesus who called him and pursued him and chased after him. And pretty much like the shepherd who sought that one sheep, and the woman who sought for that one coin. God's greatest pursuit is when He sent His one and only Son to suffer for our sins, because God knows that we don't know we need saving. We don't know that. That is why God needs to initiate that and open that door for us. Because God loves us, seeks us, pursues us, and longs for us to bring us into His kingdom. Because there is nothing that gives more joy to God than when the lost is found. So what do we do? What do we do, mga kapatid? Kamusta po tayo? Be a seeker. We will not be able to fill those seats. Madami pa pong silya sa likod. We will not be able to make God jump for joy and rejoice and call for a heaven's party if we do not seek the lost. The Koinonia campaign is happening. And I understand that our desire is to be able to bring in and seek those who are in need of Christ. And who doesn't? Meron po ba ditong hindi nangangailangan kay Kristo? No. All of us needs Christ. All of us needs God. You want to be part of Christ's mission? You want to be part of giving joy to God? Be a seeker and seek the lost. Saving is not our role. That's the Holy Spirit's and Jesus' role. He came to seek and save the lost. Our role is to take part in the seeking and bringing them back into the fold. Let's help the Good Shepherd bring back the sheep, the lost sheep. Let's help the woman sweep the floor of his house, of her house, and find that one lost coin. Isa lang. God is not asking for 100 or 1,000 even. There is rejoicing in heaven. God rejoices even with just one lost that is found. And then when they're back, we will make them belong. Right? That's what we do. Once we connect to them, once we befriend them, we bring them back into the fold and we make them belong. We will make them comfortable. We will make them welcome. Be a seeker. That is what God is asking us to do.